What happens when a group of paranormal investigators start a conversation? You get Ghost of the Coast Paranormal, the podcast, tales of the dead, the bizarre, and all things supernatural. Join us now as we discuss Vampires, Clan of the Dead. Hi, and welcome back to Ghost of the Coast Paranormal, the podcast. I'm Erin.
I'm Linnea.
I'm Deborah.
And today we are talking all about vampires.
I forgot my teeth.
Love vampires. I actually have some teeth.
I do
Should
too.
I?
Like that of the molded?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that saying that all three of us has vampire teeth?
I love vampires.
I do too.
Oh my gosh. They are probably one of my favorite, like, supernatural
Hands down.
beings.
Hands down.
Yeah.
And I love
man.
watching movies and TV shows about vampires.
All week.
No, in general. Like,
I think it would be super cool to be a vampire.
I would love to be a
Oh my
vampire.
gosh.
I've been watching vampire movies since I was little.
Yeah.
so what's your favorite vampire movie?
Probably the original Dracula
Okay.
with Bela Lugosi and Bram Stoker's Dracula.
What about you, Erin?
I love that version.
My favorite one. There's a lot of them, but my favorite one, and I know I'm probably gonna get some hate on it because it wasn't like the most popular vampire movie, but I really like Daybreak with Ethan Hawke.
Okay.
I think that's the way they go about it is very cool.
I'm going to have to go with Lost Boys.
Yeah.
I love Lost.
Yeah, that's been one of my favorites for really long.
Oh, and I have a sweet spot for Twilight too. I love
I
Twilight.
never watched.
I've watched them and I read the books, but I think the first vampire movie I actually saw was that one with Jim Carrey. It's hang on, I think it's like Once Bitten or something. Let me take a look.
Vampire. To be honest, I think vampires is what kind of got me into the supernatural.
Yeah.
Once Bitten, 1985.
Okay. I might have to look into that one. Oh, sorry.
Well, I know you don't, but do you happen to remember the after-school show that used to come on, Dark Shadows?
Girl, you call me old?
No, I'm just asking. There's a chance there.
I don't remember it, but I have seen it because once they did the Johnny Depp remake of the movie, then they started kind of playing, like, on TV, like you can watch Love Boat. So they still play the old black and white Dark Shadows now.
Oh, we were hooked every day when I got home from school. Me and my mama were on the couch.
See, the problem is all that stuff now is too slow for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We get used to seeing everything fast.
It's
I turn
rough.
that on and I
Yeah.
pass right out.
Yeah. God, I love vampire. I think it would just be. I'm hoping secretly. It's not a secret anymore if you're listening to this, but I'm hoping that one day some kind of like Eric Northman is going to come and just sweep me up and turn me into a vampire.
I don't know. He scares me a little bit.
Bela Lugosi was a
Listen,
good-looking Dracula.
on a side note, this has nothing to do with if he scares me or not. He's got some sort of primal. Let me tell you,
Eric?
I never knew.
I was more Team Wolf on that show.
that I was into some, had a primal thing going on until I saw Jason Momoa in Game of Thrones. But then,
You felt your inner howl coming out.
and then I started watching True Blood, and the way they let out a growl, I'm weak.
See, Joe is my man on that show, so
Oh, Joe.
I love some Joe.
No, vampires are very seductive.
Clearly,
They
it
put a
opened
spell
up a
on
whole
you.
new part of me that I didn't even know I had.
Now, see, if I was going to actually live that kind of life, though, then I'm more Interview of Vampire. I think that's more of an appeal, the whole dress period and being in New Orleans and Like, I loved everything Anne Rice writes. Like, she could just write me
Yeah,
right into
she
one of her
was
books.
Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to be a vampire. But like True Blood vampire, not like I love Twilight, but I wouldn't want to be a Twilight vampire because they sparkle.
What do you mean?
When they go in the
sparkle.
daylight,
Yeah,
they
when go
sparkle.
well, they can go in the daylight only when it's cloudy. That's why they
That's why
live
they
in
live
the
in
north. That's why they live in the northwest.
Okay.
But if it's sunny,
Mm-hmm.
they cannot go in the sunshine because
Okay.
they glitter.
So it's not like they burn up and die if they go into the sun. You just know that they're a vampire because they look like a diamond, like they're shining and crystalline.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Do y'all feel like with these new microphones that we have to be like right here on top of it?
Yeah, I catch myself, and I keep trying to
We're
move
turning
back a
into
little bit.
We're turning into an ASMR channel. Oh, Lord have mercy. Y'all excuse
It's been a long week,
It's
y'all.
been a long week, and we're only recording on a Thursday, so y'all just bear with us.
Mm.
Oh goodness. So yeah, vampires. It's your week this week,
That's my week.
and so what are we talking about with vampires?
We're gonna find out some information.
Woo woo!
Doop, 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 doop.
And if y'all know Eric Northman, send him my way.
Okay, so Encyclopedia Britannica, I found the vampire post dates witch hunts, werewolf trials, and even the demon-haunted Puritans. The concept of the vampire as an undead creature, often fanged, inflicting harm, originated in Eastern Europe, specifically in Bulgaria, 1,000 years ago. They live immortal lifespans despite their weaknesses, and it is fairly common for a vampire to be centuries old, although they still slowly age. A vampire who is 600 years old may appear to be as a middle-aged breather would. So,
Breather.
I'm
Are
a
you breather?
and I could be
breather.
600 years old. Damn, I look good to be 600. They are naturally nocturnal beings and will typically sleep by dawn. A person may become a vampire in a variety of ways. What do you think?
I'm just jealous that they don't ever gain any weight or anything. Right?
Well, I mean, you don't have to eat. So there's
I'm
a
okay
few
with that.
ways based on popular culture
Okay.
that we know. One is that to become a vampire has to drain you of almost, according to True Blood, almost all of your blood, and then replace that blood with theirs.
Okay.
All right. So another one is just simply being bit can turn you into a vampire, but it also can turn you into a werewolf if you just get bit or scratched by a werewolf. But anyway, and then there was another one I know, and this is based off of real like voodoo almost, is that if somebody doesn't like you, they can turn you into a zombie, but they can also turn you into a vampire where you just crave blood.
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
How do you think?
Just basically the first two is what I'd always heard.
Okay. The most common of which is to be bitten by a vampire. Other methods include sorcery, taking your own life, contagion.
Well, if you take your own life, does something happen afterwards?
I don't know all that now. I don't know all that.
Alrighty.
Contagion. Or having a cat jump over a person's corpse.
So okay, hold on. Let's go back to the contagion. So like a virus?
Yeah, that's what a contagion is.
Listen now. So just
getting frisky.
like they have a vampire virus.
I guess.
Where can I catch that?
Maybe from a mosquito.
Where can I get that? Because I would love to sleep all day.
Check TikTok. I'm sure they know.
Sleep all day, stay up all night.
So this next one here explains a lot with my uncle.
What's your uncle vampire?
Girl, he was something. Some people believe that babies born with teeth were vampires. He was born with 2 teeth.
Milk teeth?
I guess.
Or vampire fangs?
No, 2 little teethies down here. Or if you were born on Christmas or between Christmas and Epiphany, were predisposed to becoming vampires.
I wonder what the rationale behind that is.
Yeah.
I don't know. But while vampires usually do not die of disease or other normal human afflictions, and they are indeed often said to have faster than normal healing capabilities, there are various methods for their destruction. The most popular of those include a wooden stake through the heart, fire, decapitation, and exposure to sunlight. Vampires are often depicted as being repelled by garlic, running water, or Christian implements such as crucifixes and holy water.
Running water?
That's what it says. I've never heard that.
No.
In some stories, vampires may enter a home only if they have been invited.
Right.
And in others, they may be distracted by the scattering of objects, such as seeds or grains, that are compelled to count, thereby enabling potential victims to escape. If thought to be a vampire, you were buried face down, with a stake in your heart or a large stone in your mouth. So with the scattering of the objects, you know what that made me think about?
The boo hags.
Yeah.
And the haints.
I do want you to do a full episode on that for us.
By the way, if you are curious what the boo hags and the haints are, we're going to cover it. Probably we're going to cover it more in depth. But head on over to the Wayward Sisters podcast and check them out, because we had the awesome opportunity to sit down with those ladies, and we had the best time. We had a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, fun times.
So go check them out, the Wayward Sisters podcast.
I could handle being buried face down. I mean, the whole world could kiss my ass.
You ain't gonna know about it. You're dead.
Huh?
You ain't gonna know about it anyway. You're dead.
But the thoughts of a large stone in my mouth?
Well, that's probably so they don't come back and bite anybody because it's lodged in there.
And they've actually found, they found skeletons with
the stones
in their mouths.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they also...
I think the first one they found like that was actually a female.
Mm-hmm. They also started, I think, in... was it England? 15th or 16th century, they started putting cages over top of the graves.
Yeah.
But they say...
that was to deter grave snatchers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... they say.
Say. Anyway. So, from Smore.com, I found a little bit about the first vampire.
Okay.
Only a vampire can create another vampire. So logic tells us that the history of vampires begins with a single vampire who created the others, much like the chicken and the egg argument.
Okay.
We had little insight into how the first vampire came about until recently. The answer lies in the scripture of Delhi, specifically in the collection of writings known as the Vampire Bible.
Where do I get one of those?
It's on True Blood.
The first vampire started out as not a vampire at all, but as a human man named Ambrogio. 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 Sounds good to me.
Ambrosia salad.
He was an Italian-born adventurer who fate brought to Delphi in Greece. A series of blessings and curses transformed this young man into history's first vampire.
So I think that is kind of interesting. So one of the movies I did watch this week was John Carpenter's Vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched that, Erin?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So essentially in that movie, the church ends up saying that they accidentally created the first vampire by doing like a reverse exorcism. Again to the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected.
All connected.
Bring it back around.
Specifically, it began with the sun god Apollo from the Greek mythology, who in a fit of rage cursed how'd you say it? Ambrosio?
Big A.
Big A. So that his skin would burn should it ever touch sunlight again. Ambrosio's bad luck followed when he ended up gambling away his soul to Hades, the god of the underworld. The next curse came via Apollo's sister Artemis, the goddess of the moon and hunting, who made it so that Big A's skin would burn if he touched silver. The blessings came soon after when Artemis, taking pity on the poor young man, gave him the gift of immortality. He would carry his curses, his skin burning by sunlight or silver, but he would live forever in his current form. Not only that, the Artemis also gave him the speed and strength to become a hunter whose skills were second only to her own.
That's interesting. I never actually heard that story.
Mm-mm.
So that's to say this goes back way further than I would have thought.
Yeah, ancient Greece. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Blood sucking, which by the way is called hematophagy, Hematophagy. I got these big words, not these weird words, in case you were curious, is also included in this blessing. In the vampire original story, Big A hunts swans and uses their blood as ink to write love poems to his lady Selene. While this may be considered a little creepy by our standards, it wasn't all that unusual in ancient Greece to make do with what you had. The first vampire clan, Big A later moved back to Italy, now as a full-fledged vampire. Legend traces him to the city of Florence, where he creates the first vampire clan. We don't know a whole lot about this clan, other than they were most likely willing volunteers, humans who wanted power and immortality, and were willing to trade their souls for it. It was believed that the curse would continue for any vampire where their souls would remain in the underworld, where they could return to claim them, but then could never leave.
That's a good movie, by the way. Underworld.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
It's Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
From what we know of the history of vampires, the clan grew in size and strength until infighting created something of a civil war within the clan, and many vampires left to form their own clans. What happened to Big A and those who stayed with him is largely unknown, though many believe that he still resides somewhere in Florence.
I wonder how far that was from where I was.
Probably not too far.
So what if
Vampires in Rome?
What if?
Drink up.
Yeah. So what if Ambrosio is the what's it called from Twilight? The big old.
Oh yeah.
I want to say Illuminati, but it's not.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
The Vampire Kings. I can't even remember what it's called.
So from RomaniaTourism.com, we found Count Dracula.
This is your guy.
Count Dracula was inspired by one of the best-known figures of Romanian history, Vlad Dracula, nicknamed Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler. He was the ruler of Wallachia during the mid-1400s. Born in 1431 in Sagasora.
Volturi. Sorry.
It's kind of like sitting up at 3 o'clock in the morning remembering Googling something you couldn't all day.
Volturi.
She beat me to the Google.
Born in 1431 in Sagasora, Transylvania, Vlad resided most of his adult life in Wallachia, which is in southern Romania. Dracula is arguably the most important work of vampire fiction. The tale of the Transylvanian Count, who uses supernatural abilities, including mind control and shape-shifting, to prey upon innocent victims, inspired countless works thereafter. Many popular vampire characteristics, such as methods of survival and destruction, vampires as aristocracy, and even vampires being of Eastern European origin, were solidified in this popular novel and especially through its 1931 film adaptation starring Hungarian-born actor Bela Lugosi.
So I wonder at what point, because we're doing a little bit of the history here, right? Where does the bat come in? Where does it come from the man turning into a bat flying away? Like, how does that start?
Maybe him hiding in the caves? I don't know.
Being of the darkness, maybe?
Maybe because bats are nocturnal.
And he's
Fangs.
nocturnal.
Yeah.
And some bats drink blood.
Mm-hmm. Vampire bats.
I mean, in most vampire movies, they don't turn into bats, but, you know.
But
when you're growing up, that's what you
Transylvania,
hear. Transylvania 6500. 65,000? 6500? I love that movie.
The novel itself is thought by some to have been inspired in part by the cruel acts of the 15th century Prince Vlad III, excuse me, Vlad III Dracula of Transylvania, also known as the Impaler, and Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who was believed to have murdered dozens of young women during the 16th and 17th centuries in order to bathe in or possibly drink their blood so as to preserve her own vitality. Okay, you might can con me into drinking some blood, but I ain't sitting and bathing in it.
Wait, you would drink it before you'd sit in it?
I sure would.
I don't know. I think I'd sit in it before I drink it.
I just want to say, throwback to last week. I think it was last week I mentioned her.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do either, but
If you held a knife to my throat and said choose, I'd be like, drink up.
I don't know if I could do it.
I mean, it would have to be make sure it was like clean.
Of course.
I'm not drinking no dirty blood.
Of course. But the thoughts of sitting in it, it smells, it reeks of iron, it is sticky, it's thick. No.
I'm literally getting that coppery taste in my
Yeah.
mouth as you're talking about it. It's bugging me out a little bit.
So, whether you believe in vampires or not, the locals still believe in the legends. If you asked, many of them would tell you that in this region of Romania, there is still a strong belief that vampires frequent crossroads on St. George's Day, which is April 23rd, and the eve of St. Andrew on November 29th.
So we're going there in either April
Yes.
or November.
That'd be a
Oh,
damn
God.
good birthday trip
If I
for
get
us.
turned into a vampire while I'm there, woo!
So, to end this, what should you believe? Well, it really is easy to start believing the stories, especially when you drive into the Carpathian Mountains and wind your way through the old forest and into the desolate mountain passes.
So, do you think in the United States right now there are any existing vampires?
Yes. What if
Drink.
if you had over the centuries all across the world there have been many grave robberies.
Mhm.
So that can be said that there's many empty graves
Mm-hmm.
all across the world. So what if those graves that are empty aren't really empty because of grave robbing? What if they're empty because
They flew away.
they climbed out of it and now they're living as vampires?
So, there is, and you can go online right now and look, the New Orleans Vampire Association.org.
Yep.
And in the articles I was reading, there are active vampire communities in Atlanta and in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their website doesn't really look up to date, but they do have a Facebook page that has 3.7 thousand members. And that page does look like it's still active. It was created 11 years ago, and there was one new post today. I want to join this group. I gotta see what's going on in it.
So I've actually done some research on this group, and from what I
Can I join it?
If you want to become a vampire.
I'm scared.
So yeah, it's a real thing, and but they're not actually what pop culture has.
Yeah, they actually do a lot of community service.
They do. They're very active.
But there is some blood involved.
There is blood involved. They do drink each other's blood.
I'm going to join, and I think as one of our guest episodes, we should interview a vampire.
I would love that.
All right, I'm joining right now.
Yes!
If you turn into a vampire, can you turn me, please?
Sure.
Right here. Ooh, that's my good vein right there.
Vampire ghost hunters, could you imagine?
Best worlds.
Oh,
heck yeah, I could get into that.
Heck yeah. But yeah, they do drink some blood, and they have to. It said this is from theconversation.com. It says they quote, real vampires is the collective term by which these people are known for. They're not, quote unquote, real in the sense that they turn into bats and live forever, but many do sport fangs. And just as many live in a primarily nocturnal existence. These are just some of the cultural markers real vampires adopt to express a shared and, according to them, biological essence. They need blood, human or animal, or psychic energy from donors in order to feel healthy, end quote. So they're like a healthy mixture of bloodsuckers and energy vampires.
See, and I could be an energy vampire. That will work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I could be both.
Because I work with Reiki and whatever. Mm-hmm. I work with energy, so
I don't know. I would much rather be like a blood drinking vampire and live forever and travel the centuries.
I don't want to live forever. Y'all don't want me to live forever.
Travel the centuries.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be like living your normal life now because money wouldn't be an object. You'd stop aging. If you watch Twilight, all of a sudden all the wrinkles come out of her face and she's beautiful.
Well, hell, no wrinkles.
No wrinkles. You don't have to worry about money.
I'm ready to go. Every single vampire, speaking of, every single vampire is rich AF.
Yep.
How does that happen?
And gorgeous.
Because they've been building their money for centuries. And I'm sure it comes down from whoever made them over time, too, because you're kind of all in a
Well, I need my mama to hurry up and get on the bowl.
Mama, turn into a vampire.
No, whoever turns you into a vampire, you come into their wealth. Because, they've been a vampire.
That's what I'm saying. If she can go on and be a vampiress and start building her bank, then it'll go to me.
And then you can become a vampire.
And then I can become a vampire. I got a supper on my shirt.
What'd you have for supper?
It's called a new chicken sandwich from Papa's Grill, and I put Chick-fil-A sauce on it. So that's Chick-fil-A sauce.
Where's Papa?
No more Chick-fil-A sauce if you're a vampire.
Yeah.
I can't eat real food?
No.
No. I can't.
Well, it depends on what vampires you're watching. Some of them can, but
don't give me
they don't need
that
to.
True Blood shit though. I'll be drinking that.
Child, I got to have some rice and biscuits and collards.
I can drink synthetic blood.
If I turn into a vampire, I don't want that synthetic blood.
I can do the synthetic. It don't bother me none. I'm like, I'll do energy. I can do synthetic.
Nope.
Oh, Papa's is on 905.
Oh. No, if I'm gonna be a vampire, I'm
all in or nothing.
All in or nothing. Like, let me run out there as fast as I can.
I'm like the vegetarian version.
Nah. Yeah.
And I don't want to drink no deer. I don't want to kill no small animals.
No, I can. Nobody would ever
She's
know.
jumping, cracking deer's necks out there. Well, head over by my house. All the wild boar over there. You can have them.
Tasty. Vampires love a good barbecue. Oh, goodness. So, I think it would be super cool to be a vampire. I think it would be the bee's knees. What else you got for us?
That's it.
That's all you got?
Well, I got one thing I want to end with this.
Okay.
What?
All right. So I've found a couple of things.
Okay.
This is possibly, next to Dracula, one of the most notorious vampires.
Okay, I'm listening.
History.com. Mercy Brown.
Mm.
You heard of Mercy Brown?
No, ma'am.
Mercy. So, quote, Mercy Brown may rival Count Dracula as the most notorious vampire. Unlike Count Dracula, however, Mercy was a real person. She lived in Exeter, Rhode Island, and was the daughter of George Brown, who was a farmer. After George lost many family members, including Mercy, in the late 1800s to tuberculosis, his community used Mercy as a scapegoat to explain their deaths. It was common at the time to blame several deaths in one family on the undead. The bodies of each family member were often exhumed and searched for signs of vampirism. When Mercy's body was exhumed and it didn't display severe decay, not surprising since her body was placed in an above-ground vault during the New England winter. The townspeople accused her of being a vampire and making her family sick from her icy grave. They cut out her heart, burned it, and then fed the ashes to her sick brother. Perhaps not surprisingly, he died shortly after.
The hell, I reckon he probably choked to death.
End quote.
The girl didn't decompose because she was frozen.
This was back in the 1800s. They thought everybody was a vampire.
Oh, they were stupid. Puritans thought everybody was witches.
It's always something.
Oh, damn time.
Always something.
I swear, people pointing fingers.
Every generation has something.
This is true.
Now you remind me. I just watched Hocus Pocus again the other night.
I did too.
So, speaking of Hocus Pocus, a friend of mine just married this boy. His last name is Sanderson. He has a little girl from another friend of mine. Well, they are pregnant now with another little girl. So they're going to have
Three
the Sanderson sisters.
Oh, that's adorable.
What
What are the girls? They should name them like that.
I wish she would name it Winifred.
Winnie?
Winnie.
Aww.
Little Winnie.
See, now I wouldn't mind being a witch either.
I could be a little bit of both. I can be a vamp bitch.
Oh, my Lord.
A vampire witch. Oh, goodness.
I think I might would have more fun with being a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And you don't have to drink blood.
Unless you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah. There'd be a whole lot of toads running around here.
Alright, so according to unnaturalworld.fandom.com, these are the different stages in which a person contracts vampirism.
Okay.
Ooh. Stage 1. In this stage, this is as if it was a virus. A contagion?
Mm-hmm.
Stage 1. In this stage, the virus destroys the immune system.
You saying contracts, and all I can think is like an STD.
It's sucking them dry disease.
Yeah.
The virus destroys the immune system and replaces it with its own. Victims may feel a bit weak. Stage 2. This occurs about 30 hours after contraction. In this stage, the body is changed and prepared for a vampire life. It is followed by dilated pupils, irregular heartbeat, cough, chills, high fever, body ache, headaches, weakened sight, and stomach ache. Stage 3 occurs 2 to 3 days after contraction. It is followed by weakness to sunlight and an insatiable bloodthirst. Stage 4. This stage occurs about 5 days after contraction. Patient enters a coma, wakes up about 16 to 48 hours later. Upon waking up, the patient is a vampire.
Ooh, you and I are already sensitive to sunlight. In the 16-hour thing, that's me on the weekends. And I usually wake up. Just ask my husband.
Oh, gosh. Oh, all right. So, do y'all think that if we're speaking on being, okay, do you think being a vampire is a curse?
No, because it's awesome.
I mean, no.
So when she was saying it about like the gods gave him like this, that, the other thing, right? Okay, not being able to go in sun, not good. But you get superhuman strength and speed.
Yeah.
How's that a curse? Like, who doesn't want that?
And if we're getting technical, spiritual on it, if it was a gift from Ra, the sun god.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was a gift from a god, then it would be considered a blessing, I think. Hit me up.
I think it could be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, for sure.
All in the same, because it's a never-ending cycle.
Well, it's like they're giving you the good and the bad. Like, okay, so you're going to outlive your family. So there's that, right? You're going to lose all that stuff. Yeah. So bad, right? Can't go out in the sun. Not great. Having to kill people. Not so great, but superhuman strength. Superhuman speed. Not having to age.
Pretty great to kill somebody if they piss me off.
Fat.
Bad for them, good for me.
Well, it's still legal.
You got a meal. You got a meal out of it.
Or if I wanted them dead, I ain't gonna want to drink their blood. It's probably contaminated.
They contracted something.
Sure enough.
Oh, gosh.
But I wonder if they're like a mosquito. You know, when a mosquito bites you, it injects something in your skin. Right. That's what makes you itch and swell.
Well, it must, because you have to get the vampire's blood to become the vampire, right?
So I wonder if it's like something in the blood, not just the blood.
Like in some of the stuff, like as soon as they bite, and the like a venom goes in to kind of like paralyze you a little bit, so you're not like.
Well, that's like Twilight too. Well, here's some other methods. I know you talked about them briefly, but so you have blood ingestion, which is to simply drink the vampire's blood, or to die within 24 hours of a vampire's blood in one system. Witchcraft. I think my neighbor's like mowing his grass outside.
Sounds like his weed.
Pick the hell up.
I'm like, it's like.
Well, the sun ain't out, and it's kind of cool. I mean, he's not done for doing all that. He's not there.
We only see him at night.
That's true.
Ooh. Anyway,
you want me to go ask him?
Well, excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, are you a vampire?
Are you a vampire?
Just hold up a mirror out there. We didn't even talk about mirrors.
Yeah, we sure did.
So witchcraft. So a witch can cast a spell, often called an immortality spell, to grant a human immortality and heightened abilities, but at the expense of a bloodlust, aversion to sunlight, and inability to enter a person's home uninvited.
So the superhuman powers, we also forgot about the heightening of their vision, their hearing, their sense of smell.
Yeah. Hence why Edward was about to throw up when he first smelled Bella. Rude.
That is like...
He's like...
He looks so repulsed.
He does. He's like...
Why?
Because she's got rare blood.
Bad.
She's got what?
Rare blood. So...
Her
kind
blood,
of like you got rare blood, so if I was a vampire, you would smell
all vampires. She's like super appealing to all vampires.
Like she's got like, have you ever watched True Blood?
No.
Oh, she's got Sookie Stackhouse blood.
Yeah, girl, you need to watch that.
She's got what?
Sookie Stackhouse blood.
What is that?
She's a main character
of True Blood.
They all want her. Don't matter what species they are. They all just want. She's a prize in the show.
Okay.
Vampires, werewolves, shapeshifters.
You would like it. I can't believe you don't know what. There's fairies in it. It's got everything we like.
Mm-hmm. Everything. Necromancy. A necromancer, which is a person who uses magic to reanimate and control the dead, has the power to place a deceased soul back into its body and reanimate the corpse. So this kind of goes along the lines of the voodoo and hoodoo practices.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of in like Vampire Diaries now.
Yep. Soul transference. It is possible for a vampire to reanimate a human corpse, even one that has been dead for some time, to be reborn as a vampire. Vampire shares some of his or her soul with the corpse as a result. So vampires have souls, yes or no?
Well, this is interesting. I'm just Googling over here. I want to know what the Vampire Bible was. So I'm on Goodreads.com, right? And it's like, the Vampire Bible is your passport to the world of the vampire. The Vampire Bible allows you to seek membership to the temple.
So what are you going to do if they get back to you and they're like, yeah,
I don't know, I'm kind of scared now.
They're like, join us, but in order to join us, you have to drink this one.
By obtaining an authorized copy of the Vampire Bible from us, you open the door to contact and communication with us. I don't know if I want to buy this or run away. I kind of want to know what's in it. Wait, let me look at the reviews for this.
You know what happened to the cat?
I know. But I've always been really nosy, so. Ask my sister.
It took me a second. I was like,
what happened to the cat?
I was like, what cat?
Curiosity, my friend.
What cat are we talking about?
Do you think vampire has a soul? I don't know. I'm kind of torn on
I mean, if they're dead, technically.
I don't know if they have their soul, but I think they still have some sort of moral.
They're undead. They're not dead, but they're not alive.
Yeah, but like.
What'd you say, Lenny?
I forgot because I'm all caught up in this stupid book now. It's like I'm trying to read the reviews. 182 5-star reviews on this book, and I want to know. It just says loading, and now I'm convinced they're tracking me. They're looking for me now.
They're gonna knock on.
Is looking at me.
They're gonna knock on your door and be like, "Can we come in?" They're gonna glamour you or whatever it's called on True Blood.
Mm-hmm. The FBI's gonna come knocking on your door at 2:30 in the morning, wanting to know why you were looking for a vampire Bible.
Listen, if they didn't come after the White House and the Vatican episode, I'm pretty sure I'm safe.
We're good,
at least from them. Vampires are another story.
All right, so here's some quote experiences.
Alrighty,
I only have 2 of them. So this is from Reddit. And the user is California Man 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, it's been a long week. It really has been a long week. And I think we're just cracking under the week it's been.
Yeah.
Well, this also isn't our normal recording night, too.
No.
So I think that's throwing it off a little bit. So we normally record on Mondays. We record.
And the new moon, too. I'm convinced. Because I've had feelings all week where it's
been a weird, the energy's been weird this week.
It's the moon, I'm telling you.
The retrograde is just.
Yeah. Yeah, the energy
is killing me.
It's been weird energy this week.
See? Nothing's there. New moon just started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for those of y'all listening, episodes come out on Mondays, and we also record the following week episode on Monday. So we normally record on Mondays, and it's now Thursday. So
We're a little slack this week.
we record on Monday before the week can grab hold of us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get back into it. So from Reddit, California man 2017, quote, a suspected vampire from my childhood in Trujillo, Peru. A neighbor who I believed had alopecia. Guy was pale, alopecia universalis. The guy was pale though, only left at night. Night jobs, I know, but from my window I could see he had this hush hush move about him. I just pictured his movement in my head, and it's just like this very glidey, like.
I'm thinking stealth mode.
Yeah, had this very hush hush move about him, looking both ways before entering and leaving. Always had his curtains closed. Couple times I spotted him on his roof stargazing or something. One day he moved out. Pretty quickly, in fact. Didn't have many belongings. I think this was like a second home more than anything. He moved east into the mountains and forests. Haven't heard anything since. Dude, that was no vampire. He was working for the Peruvian government. He was on a mission. And you just blew his cover. Y'all, speaking of mission, I have been rewatching the show. It came on probably about like 8 or 9 years ago, and it's called Covert Affairs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've been rewatching it on Freevee, and it is, I'm all about it. I'm like, I could be a vampire spy. I could totally be a vampire spy.
I'd rather be a vampire than a vampire spy.
I would too, but watching Covert Affairs, I'm like, but no, that was no vampire. That was a Peruvian government operative for the Peruvian CIA. Anyway, moving on. This next one is called. Next one is Lex Sang. It's the user. Quote, to start this off, I have absolutely no interest in trying to prove my experiences as true to anyone. If you're skeptical, you would be better off not reading this at all. I do not take any drugs that would have induced any sort of altered state. And other than my own work on my spiritual path, there was nothing at the time that would have brought this experience on. It was sudden, completely unexpected, and I wrote it out until it passed. Trigger warning, blood, gore, terrifying experience. First of all, not going to lie, in this first part of this experience, I kind of believe her, because who else would be like, you know what, I don't give a shit if you believe it, if you believe me or not. So, quote, with that out of the way, I should say that I work with spirits, and my spiritual path is centered around vampirism. So I deal with vampires from time to time. But the kind I have experience with are all corporeal spirits. I don't know if physical vampires exist other than humans with vampiric needs, like sanguinarians or psychic vampires, energy vampires. I was settling down.
Is a psychic vampire still immortal, or is it just somebody who, like a person who drains energy?
I think it's just.
Because we call psychic. We talk about energy vampires all the time, but
I think it's just a human with like that
draining ability.
Well, let's talk about energy vampires in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I was settling down to go back to bed. I had not changed. I had not yet changed, and my partner was still getting ready. But I chose to lie on my back for a second and close my eyes for a second. I was still fully awake and fully conscious in the moment, but I felt my entire state of consciousness shift. While I could still feel my body, I was also somewhere else spiritually. It is hard to explain to people who haven't experienced an out of body sensation, but even though I could feel my body, I knew I was lying in the bed. That part felt like a thin facade, and the spiritual world I was thrown into felt more real than the life I live every day. I was standing in an infinite plane, and I was met by strange things with bloody deer skulls as heads, sharp teeth, antlers, all made out of jagged, twisting bones. Their bodies looked like robes made out of flesh, almost like it was superimposed behind the creature I was seeing. I saw a masculine humanoid being with a sharp jawline and absolutely no human emotion, staring directly at me with glowing eyes. I felt that it was showing what I felt that it was what was showing me these vivid visions. Minutes passed of it just starting or just staring at me, and horrible visions being pushed at me. The deer skull-headed creature started to twist in impossible non-Euclidean ways in this infinite bloody plane. Sorry, the white on black text is tripping me up. I say infinite because it was strangely palpable that there were no edges in the spiritual plane. Okay, first of all, no edges. That would be kind of weird. To be able to be in a room and it's not a square room.
It's a round room.
It's a round room. It's a circle room. The visions eventually passed, and oddly, I hadn't felt any fear through this entire ordeal. Not because I am brave or anything like that, but because I simply didn't feel afraid, and I can't explain why. In the morning, while walking my partner to work, they mentioned that they had some frightening spiritual experiences before we went to sleep as well. I asked for details. They mentioned they had felt that something was pushing terrible, uncharacteristically violent thoughts into their head, and that when they told it to leave, it did. And finally, they mentioned that it had terrifyingly blue eyes. I had never had a shared experience with a spiritual entity before, but knowing that someone else saw the same thing I did brought the reality of it to me. My partner felt that it was just floating along, feeding on fear. Neither of us fully understand what it was or what it wanted, but it hasn't been back. And from my experience, vampiric spirits come in many shapes and sizes. And the most important thing to remember is that many of them were never human to begin with, and have no reason to follow the human moral code or any morals at all. They don't live in our world, and they aren't bound by any of its rules. And they are not something anyone should try and play with out of assumption that they will be like they are in the movies, end quote. What do y'all think about that?
Well, I mean, never alive to begin with. They're never...
It sounds like they're talking about like they had an experience with a skinwalker or a Wendigo. I mean, it just sounds very...
I find when we do a lot of the kind of things from Reddit and whatever, I feel like a lot of times they're looking in the wrong direction. Like they would think it's one thing, but we all hear it and we're like, oh, that sounds more like this.
Yeah. Reddit's got some interesting stuff. But
for sure.
Reddit's got some strange stuff too.
Strange. But I mean, yeah, it sounds to me like a Wendigo or a Skinwalker more than anything. But I mean, so me personally, when I think of vampires, I think of them as a physical being. I don't have a thought of them being spiritual at all.
Mm-mm.
Do you think it's a religion also?
I think it, like with anything, it can be.
I fell down a hole over here when I was looking at that Bible.
They have, if it's the same Bible from True Blood.
Well, this is that the temple of the vampire. Remember, I was reading the good book. It says if you order this is basically your invite to get in contact. So this is saying it's a religion that was created in 1989. So I'm wondering if the New Orleans vampires are part of something like this, because it does also sound like it's like I'm looking at their mission. It's interesting.
Well, so what the religion would be called, like witches. I mean, most of your witches are
vampirism.
Vampirism.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it says the temple embraces only those aspects of the vampire mythos that include a love and a respect for all life, physical immortality, individual elegance, proven wisdom, civilized behavior, worldly success, and personal happiness. The temple rejects those aspects of the vampire mythos that are negative, including any that are anti-life, antisocial, deathist, crude, gory, self-defeating, or criminal.
That's kind of interesting. I can't be a vampire then.
Well, you can be a vampire. You don't have to be part of the religion.
Oh, okay.
But this is the mission.
Because I love me some gore.
Oh, you don't like that Terrifier movie, do you?
What?
Oh God, she's so behind. I mean,
I haven't seen the Terrifier.
Oh my God, don't. Well, it's gore, but it's like
Human Centipede gore.
It's about Art the Clown.
Don't do clowns.
But it just like there's no like every time I watched the first two, and the second one I only watched because they said people were actually like throwing up in movie theaters and like passing out. It was so gory. Well, then Google it. I mean, it was like a whole big to do.
Yeah.
So what's this called again? Because I'm gonna have to watch it.
Terrifier, and there's two of them, and it's about Art the Clown. But it is just straight up gore. Like there's no, I mean, there's this much of a plot. And it's basically just gore. Like, I love a good scary movie, but I want, like, twists and turns and suspense. I don't want just people getting chopped up for 2 hours.
And that's all it is?
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, it's got to have a plot.
I made the mistake of watching The Human Centipede. I had heard a lot about it, and everything that I heard was, it's a scary movie, it's gory, and made the mistake. My dumbass sat there and I watched it, turned it off, and
isn't that the worst?
In like 25 minutes, I turned it off because I'll give a movie a good half hour, and then I'm like,
girl, I feel obligated. I'm like, I already put this much into it. I just got to know what happens now.
Yeah,
and I'll watch all of it.
Have you seen Human Centipede?
I don't know. I've watched so many scary movies at this point. Like when I'm going on my channels,
not even a scary movie.
I'm like, I start watching a movie. I'm like, oh man, I saw this. Oh man, I saw it. Like I don't know until I'm 10 minutes into it whether I've seen it or not.
It's not even a scary movie. It's somebody's sick mind. So let's get into briefly about energy vampires. What do y'all think they are?
So this is something we kind of talk about even with investigations. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's not even like a thing. It's more of like a term. Like, say, I have a friend that's just negative, and I feel just like it just sucks it at me. Like I literally cannot talk to you. I'm done. Mm-hmm. That's me.
Yeah, yeah, and like I feel like energy vampires. They thrive off of like chaos and
they literally just suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
You're just
yeah.
And when I'm around people like that, I'm drained
for sure.
When I leave, I just
it's I think it can work multiple different ways. I don't think necessarily. I don't think they're necessarily like feeding off of negative energy or like just, but I think too, like we all know somebody who's like just a lot to handle. And like they're just overly like So let me tell you what we did this weekend, and then we went to the blah, 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 and you're like, you like slowly just sink down, and by the time they leave, you're just like, God,
what the hell?
they don't shut up. But I mean, like, it's the worst is seeing somebody you know in the grocery store who's like that.
And you turn and go the other way?
Yeah, and they're like,
Before they can
they're
see
like,
you?
well, let me tell you, we got this, and we got this, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and we're doing this, and we're doing that. And I'm like, cool, okay. As I'm slowly taking a step back.
That's kind of like Peppy Pete. Always, hey, how are you? What are you doing? I'm always smiling. Always, ain't no damn body always that happy. I am. So you are lying about something somewhere.
That's like the Facebook front.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Somebody who
you
has
got
the
Facebook
perfect
life and then real
profile.
life.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because
Or like how my husband likes to tell me, turn off my fake phone voice. when you're on the work call versus,
Oh, yeah.
Even people I work
John,
with.
be like, you got your fake voice on.
Yeah, people I work with says, well, there is Harvard, Deborah.
And I've answered the phone to my mom a couple times and be like, hello. And she's like, what? What are you doing? But, yeah, I think, and it's exhausting too. This is kind of along the lines of energy vampires, but like in our line of work, when we're customer service, we have to be on all the time. And then like people might be like, I never see you upset or angry. And then one day,
give me 5 minutes.
Yeah, like one day you come to work and you're wearing your hair different. And they're like, you okay? What's wrong with you? I'm like, get the away from me.
That was like when my eyes were running and running and running.
Yeah.
People would constantly be asking, are you okay?
You're right. Why are you
Girl,
crying?
it was here last week. It was there the week before you saw. Like, it's nothing new. Yes, I'm fine.
No, see, I've started playing into it. I don't know why I can't quit crying. I just don't know why I can't stop.
You'll be locking me up.
Play right into it.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
But that's me. I'm just mean like that.
Lord. Y'all got anything else?
I don't know. I think I'm going to have to move to New Orleans.
We can start a chapter down there.
All right.
Hey, start a chapter here.
That'd be fun.
Oh.
No,
Can we start our own vampire chapter?
You can do whatever you want.
Ghost of the Coast Paranormal, the vampires.
Yeah, but then you're assuming everybody in the group wants to be a vampire.
Yeah, we'll have to start something different.
We can call it Horry County Vampire Association. Thank you for calling Horry County Vampire Association.
I have a vampire court of New Orleans. I'm reading this article about this guy, right? And he was being fitted for his first set of fangs, and a switch flipped on in him. And then he says, quote unquote, something just came to the surface and everything felt right for once in my life, he said. And I had this notion that there was more to it than just pointy teeth. He found himself belonging in New Orleans and never left. Now a crafter of bespoke acrylic fangs himself. So now he lives in New Orleans and makes fangs.
Oh, I've seen this guy on TikTok.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I'm going to look him up if he's got TikTok. But it says, let's see. He didn't know what to call the feeling at the time that would lead him from New York to New Orleans, but he knows now that it was an awakening, his first taste of life as a vampire. He found belonging in New Orleans and never left. Now a crafter of the acrylic teeth, he's risen up to a reluctantly accepted role of king of the Big Easy's vampire court. Being a part of the vampire court of New Orleans is about all of us coming up together. A victory for one person is a victory for all of us, he said. We're all just kind of sink or swim together. Human vampires live, and they're fairly far from the fictional creatures we recognize. Their interpretations of vampirism vary widely. Many of them feed off of energy or sexual encounters, but feeding habits and fangs are just the trappings of a community that is as diverse as it is misunderstood by non-vampires. I think it's calling me. I think I just gotta go. I'm just gonna have to go.
Road trip.
If you go and
girl, I ain't coming back. I ain't coming back. I'm staying.
One way
Packing my bags. Oh, you coming too?
Yeah, okay.
If I'm gonna be a vampire, we're gonna go all out. Can animals be turned? Can I turn my dog into a vampire?
Mine's gonna have to, or I can't get
Why
it.
not? Okay, now you and your occupation, and I was actually just thinking about getting a tattoo of this. My first favorite book was Bunnicula.
I hated Bunnicula.
What? I love Bunnicula.
But also,
What's better than a rabbit vampire?
But also, I hated reading as a kid.
Oh, I didn't. I
hated reading.
I've always loved reading.
I hated it as a kid.
How'd you end up in a library not liking reading as a child?
Well, as a kid, I did.
Do you read now?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think what it was, okay, so back to this, rewind. I didn't like to read as a kid. And I think what it was a mixture of ADHD, having trouble focusing, and being forced to read one. Like, I hated 1984. I hated The Crucible. I hated all of that because I was forced to read it. And I had such a hard time, like, focusing on it. So I couldn't understand. Like, I could understand to a point. I couldn't, like... And here I am now as an adult and realize there's such thing as audiobooks. So I'm actually...
I can only do that when I'm in car rides.
Chad loves audiobooks when he's on a long car
I like
ride.
I can't even do Kindle. I like holding a book. Yep.
See,
I got 2 books sitting in my front seat right now.
See, I can't. My brain will not let me sit down, and I will end up reading the same paragraph over and over and over because my brain is like, squirrel. Like, so I should probably really go get tested for ADHD.
You don't want to get labeled?
No. But, no, I love listening to an audiobook. In the past month, I have knocked out half of a series. And so I just started.
So I take it audiobooks is not like listening to the Peanuts school teacher.
So, like, and I can listen to it while I work. I can listen to it, and understand what's going on. And, like, I just started Monday. I just started the 6th book in the series. And I put it on when I go to work, put it on my way home, listen to it on my lunch.
See, I listen to podcasts when I'm in my car.
I've gotten out of listening to podcasts a little bit, but I'll get back into it once I finish this series.
I have like 4 of them I listen to regularly.
But yeah.
So we're going to New Orleans and we're joining the vampire tribe?
Yep. The court.
We're going to be a part of the clan?
Yep, I think it is.
We'll be our own clan.
Okay. We got to learn there because they've already been doing it. We got to go get some lessons.
Yeah, we can go get some lessons.
Plus, I just really like New Orleans. I mean, there's just so much culture and history, and I love all the voodoo. I love the restaurants. I love everything about it. I love the cemeteries. I love the accents. I don't love the pickpockets, but
I love the accent. I've worked with a guy that was from
some of them are
he was from New Orleans or right outside of New Orleans, and just talking in conversation like this, he sounded just like we did. But if he got excited or mad, you couldn't understand shit.
I remember they took me to some house. It might have been a frat house. And I was just looking at this guy was up on the staircase, and I couldn't understand a look at what he was saying. I was just looking at him.
So after we go there, can we go to Bryan Castle? Please.
We'll be immortal at that point.
Might have to make more than one trip.
Yeah, we'll be fresh vampires, so our money's not built up yet.
Well,
don't forget,
talking to your mama.
My kids want me to go this February, so my kids are going to be there.
At Bryan Castle or
in New Orleans?
Oh, New Orleans, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm jelly.
Wait. So let's go start a vampire clan down in NOLA.
I remember telling my dad I was going to New Orleans, and he's like, "Don't say that."
New
Orleans.
Well,
I know.
There was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot.
That was the rest of the story.
The rest of the story?
Never mind. You don't know who Paul Harvey is, do you?
No. Sure don't. Sure don't. All right, well, thank y'all for tuning in today. And let us know what you think about vampires. Are they real? Are they not? Are they spiritual? Or are they physical?
Are they undead or unalive?
Are you a vampire?
Have you met one?
Oh, have you met let us know for sure, because we could feature that on a listener submission for sure.
Sure enough.
So, well, there you have it. Vampires. Until next time, y'all come back now, you hear?
Whoa.